Okay, I guess. Well, obviously we picked Leonard Williams today with the first pick in the sixth pick in the first round. Obviously, we're very, very excited about that. Basically, at the end of the day, he was the best player on our board, and we're kind of surprised he actually fell to us, and felt it was basically too good of a value to pass on at that point in time. So, with that, I will turn over any questions people may have.
Mike, when you did see that Washington pick Scherf, you knew he was going to be there for you. What was sort of your reaction? It's probably not what you expect.
Yeah, I think, I was telling people internally, there's always unexpected things that happen in the draft. I think when you look through all the mock drafts, his name consistently came up in the first 3 or 4 or 5 picks in the draft. I kind of stress with everybody all through the process, you just try to build your board in a bubble, and you try to, in essence, try to figure out the players from best to worst. And when you go through the process, you try to, you basically anticipate any possibilities that may happen at that point in time. And when we were going through different scenarios, we kind of thought it was a bit of a long shot. But when it kind of presented itself, we basically went back to my simple philosophy, was try to add as many good players to the organization as possible, and the best player available at that point in time, which is what we felt he was. So he's, again, a very big, physically talented, very young player. He's only 20 years old, won't even be 21 until I think sometime in June. So we have we feel he has a very, very big upside and a lot of potential.
Mike, this is kind of the ultimate test of the best player available here, because I think if you stacked your positions, you look at the defensive line as the lowest on the need list.
Yeah.
So when you're on the clock and Williams is there, obviously that's your philosophy, but is there any thought in your mind, like, do we really want to go with the defensive lineman here, or do we want to take the next guy on the board that might be more of a position we need?
Well, I think when we kind of had built our board, there were certain players that we kind of felt, or I felt, in the process, we felt, I should say, that were just really good players. I think at certain times in the draft when you build your board, there's players in your mind you go through, okay, hey, unlikely scenario, they fall to us, what do? Do you go by what you believe in, which is, especially through the draft, which is a little more risky in terms of you're trying to project return in the future, do you just go with the best player available, and then at the end of the day, you can't have enough good football players, so it really doesn't matter what position you go after, as opposed to maybe factoring in something that doesn't really apply to how good or bad that player is going to be, your own personal need. Maybe you pass on a player, and then 2 years later you find out that the player you had reached a certain ceiling. The player you probably should have taken that was the best player available has a much higher ceiling, or turned out to be a better player. So that's the game you play when you go through the evaluation process. But again, in my mindset, the way that, as long as we add good players to this organization and players that can be impactful and help us win games, to me, I can never have enough good players, especially on the defensive line, and when you play teams in our conference that that do well.
Like when you were on the clock, you did score trading down.
Yeah, I think we turned the pick in later in the process. We gave it its full, its full allotment of time to see if the phone would ring. There wasn't any trade options that basically came across our desk that were worthy to move out of the pick. So at the end of the day, we kind of went back to what we felt was, in this process, you just try to maximize your return and take the best player available. I kind of felt in the process that there were certain players that we really felt good about, that we felt were very good players in this draft. And again, you just have to prepare for the unexpected sometimes when guys fall to you that you really don't expect.
Did you try to trade up, Mike? Did you try to trade up during the draft tonight?
Well, really, in terms of the draft, like it all heats up to at the very last minute. The way that all the back channel stuff works, you kind of find out what the price is for certain picks. Like, we literally talked to every team in front of us and literally talked to every team behind us. We probably, I think we had multiple people calling at times, it seemed like. But we realized that at that point in time, Tennessee obviously took the player they wanted. They had a lot of interest in that pick, from what I understood. And I think for them it was going to take a very large offer to get that pick, and at that point in time, we researched it and decided to sit tight where we were and see what fell to us.
Mike, heading into the draft, where was Williams on your board?
I would say he would be in the top 3 players on our board. So.
How does it work schematically, having Williams, Wilkerson, Richardson along the same line? You know, how do you sort of envision it playing out?
No, you can never have enough D linemen. You know, I've had a bunch of D linemen in Dallas when I was there too. So having a lot of good football players doesn't matter. I think everybody on the D line has to learn how to play across the board in our scheme anyway. So having him add to the mix just makes us better.
Would you consider more 4-3 now with the amount of personnel you have on the defensive line, or you just?
No, we're a 3-4 team. It may give us a chance to do some certain packages depending on the game, but we're still a 3-4.
Mike, is Muhammad Wilkerson a trade chip now?
Right now Muhammad's on our team, and we're not. Again, I'm not going to speculate. We're not actively trying to shop Muhammad. So at this point, it's right now he's part of us, and obviously at some point in time we're going to talk to him and his agent and kind of proceed forward.
You still confident that a deal will get done?
Again, I would hope so, but time will tell.
Mike, you said. Sorry to interrupt. You said you're not actively shopping, and are you listening to offers? Have you received any offers from offers?
No. To answer your question, we're not. So first of all, we're not actively shopping him. The way this works, everybody puts out feelers all the time in the league. Everybody tries it. We were calling around literally every team about trades. In terms of draft picks, and stuff comes up in conversation. But again, there's nothing. Really nothing to speculate or report on that front, quite frankly.
Mike, you mentioned that you did kind of consider trading down, but when you saw Williams was going to be available to you, and it sounds like he was one of those guys you labeled too good to pass on, did you kind of say when some of those offers came in, like, it would have to be a blockbuster offer for us now to move out since he is available?
Yeah.
Was that kind of reasoning?
Well, I think actually, we were, again, we would probably entertain any offer. Not really to speculate on what we had or didn't have on the table. At the end of the day, it's, we gave it the full allotment of time to see what teams would kind of call and inquire, and at the end of the day, we never really got a offer of to kind of move out of the pick that we felt good about. So.
There was some talk on TV about a shoulder injury.
Yeah, he did have a shoulder surgery, I believe, actually prior to this last season in January. So, but again. In our process, we felt very good about him from a physical and a health standpoint going forward.
How much work did you do visit with him?
Yeah.
Bring him here for a visit?
Yep, and we went to his pro day and covered that, and we obviously met with him at the Combine also. So we did have him in here for a visit, one of our 30 official visits that we were allowed to have.
Like, were Todd and you both at his pro day?
I didn't go to the SC pro day. We were obviously saw him at the Combine workout. He worked out very well at the Combine, but I think at that point in time, I'm not sure if you went to that pro day.
No, defensive line coach was at his pro day.
Yeah.
Was there something during his visit here that stood out that ultimately impressed both of you guys?
For me, obviously his play spoke for itself, but when he got here, just meeting the young man, seeing how mature he was and how full of life he was and the great attitude he had and the passion for playing football, that kind of connected with me.
Mike, from a scouting perspective, we've seen just the snippets online, and you see play inside and outside really. Could you just kind of, from a scouting perspective, break it down in terms of the strengths that aren't obvious to people like us? Maybe provide some insight on this guy.
Yeah, I think when you break down Leonard, obviously he's sort of prototypical in terms of size. He's literally 20 years old, not even 21 till June. He's a very big, athletic, explosive player. When you watch him on tape, I think that kind of comes to the forefront. He can be, in essence, a three-down player because he's big, athletic, and physical versus the run, but he also is, again, a very quick and active and agile player to be effective as a pass rusher. And I think with a kid when he's that young, and especially talking to a lot of the people I knew that had been around him at both when I went there in the fall and scouted him at Southern Cal, or a scout when I went to Southern Cal and eventually went called back and talked to the people about him later. Everybody you talked about the kid really likes the kid and thinks he has just a huge ceiling in terms of potential, which I would concur with just watching him. So to me, it was, again, you're looking at a guy that's, to me, I think has scratching the surface of the player he could potentially be. And that player could be a very good run down and pass rusher, basically, is what you would, when you put it all together. So,
Mike, is the best way to cover for not having an elite quarterback to build a dominating defense, and especially one that can get after the quarterback?
Well, I would probably defer to Todd on on some of those questions. I think from our standpoint, it's on the personnel side is like we're kind of tasked with just trying to get as many, talented players as we can in the organization via pro or college, and it's kind of a simple philosophy in the sense of just trying to make every position as competitive as possible. And again, the more good football players you can put on the field, the more impactful they can be.
So I guess my question is, because you didn't wind up with a quarterback in the first round of this draft, and then you built on the best part of your team, which is the defensive line, is that a way to try to equalize the fact that maybe you're not going to beat teams with scoring a lot of points, is just to have a team that can get after the quarterback?
No, I mean, in this case, we took the best player available. It could have been an offensive guy. We would have taken an offensive guy, but Leonard was the best guy on our board. We weren't trying to compensate for the quarterback or not compensate for the quarterback. We were just trying to pick the highest player available. I think when you pick that high, you can't go for need and reach before something with a guy that's more athletic and a lot better than the guy that you're trying to reach for. So we took the best player available for us.
Like you mentioned, he was in your top three. Who were the other two guys up there in the court?
Yeah. I would probably take the fifth on that one, but yes, they were also gone. So the other two were.
Todd, you just added a player that a lot of people consider possibly the best player in this draft and maybe the surest bet in this draft. To add that guy to your roster, are you happy?
I'm excited. I mean, I know it doesn't look like it on my face. It's been a long day with minicamp. On the inside, I'm very excited. On the outside, he adds to the mix of defensive linemen down there. That should help us a great deal.
Mike, you're known as a guy who blitzes a lot. You may not have to. I mean, with front
rush forward.
Let's hope so.
Mike, you said you obviously waited the time in case the phone would ring or whatever, but did you have any doubt once Leonard was available that he was going to be your pick?
Pretty much at that point in time, because again, as I said before, like on the pro side, you can factor in need as you try to target players that kind of fit certain positions when you go through pro free agency. And again, it's sort of comparing apples to apples. When you're in college, again, I always feel teams fall into the same trap. They factor in things that have no bearing on the player being successful or not. So in our mindset, like I said, I was very true to what I believe, which is again, if you feel a player is substantially better than the other players around them, you don't really factor in need to your decision-making process. When everything else is equal, you think the player's about the same level and same ability, then you can use need to separate it. So when we saw him available, it was just we felt a very good player. We're, again, a little surprised he kind of fell to us. We're kind of excited about it. But it was, from that standpoint, it was just the idea of adding a very young, talented player to our team was, was, in my mindset, a fairly easy decision to make.
Todd, I realize that you probably, that you didn't know, until Washington made the pick that Leonard would be available.
Yeah.
Right? But did you have any inkling based on any of the selections before that, as they unfolded, that he would be available? Yeah,
it was interesting when we always, there was a few players we kind of felt were going to be early on, potential players. And quite frankly, Leonard was, I don't think they had any mock draft had Leonard going beyond 5, like literally none. I mean, like and again, it's interesting. I tell people sometimes, like when you guys sort of follow, or really the people who follow the league and follow the teams, and some of these mock drafts people do. As you get closer to the actual draft, they tend to get more accurate. Like when you look at them, weeks and months away, they're a little more, not quite as accurate. But as you get kind of closer, they get more accurate. So it was interesting that sometimes you'll hear little tidbits where, as you guys gather information or the media gathers information, you see guys that will sort of trickle down, or like it may get more accurate to how it was. So really, I mean, I don't think we kind of expected him to be there till probably we got on the clock and realized that when Washington, made their pick and we realized it wasn't the player we thought it was going to be, we were kind of excited and surprised at the same time.
Todd, would you consider, if things work out with Mull, to incorporate some 4-3?
We have already incorporated some 4-3. We're a multiplex defense. We kind of run both of them anyway, so
More 4-3 maybe? Or?
depends on the game, depends on the team.
Will either one of you guys reach out to Mo? Because we've already given questions about trade possibilities. There's going to be speculation because of his pick, because of his contract status that he got luck with. Either one of you reach out to him to sort of assure him?
I would think we both will, whether it's myself to the agent and Todd to Mo, or
Yeah, we will.
yeah.
What do you guys kind of plan to say to him? That you still want him type thing, the stuff he told us?
He's still on our team, obviously. He's a good football player, and yes, of course we want him.
Yeah.